Welcome back to Deep Nonsense, where we take the wildest, most out there ideas from movies and ask one simple question: could it actually happen? Today, we're diving into the cyberpunk dystopia of RoboCop. All right, picture this. A critically injured cop is resurrected as a crime fighting machine, patrolling the mean streets of Detroit with superhuman strength, pinpoint accuracy, and a mind that's half human, half computer. It's part man, part machine, and 100% bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about RoboCop. but could we really build something like RoboCop in real life? Who knows? Today we're breaking down the science behind cybernetic enhancements, brain machine interfaces, and the ethics of turning humans into weapons. Is it possible to create a police officer that's more metal than flesh? Or is it just another piece of cinematic sci fi that belongs on the scrap heap? Stick around as we dive deep into the tech, the ethics, and the straight up madness of bringing Robocop to life. Let's suit up and get into it. All right, man. You know that movie Robocop? Well, I got all this research info sitting here about all of it and how close we are to actually having something like that in real life. A cyborg police officer. So that's what we're going to dive into today.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so what we're looking at is like all the tech and science that would have to happen for this to be real, right? Like connecting humans and machines. And how would you even bypass sleep on all the robotics? And then like the big ethical questions. And then like
Yeah.
like
The ethics are huge.
so, shall we jump in?
Okay.
All right. The first part of this of the research that we did was all about merging humans and machines. In fact, we'll kind of jump into this on a later episode too. Spoiler: we got some Matrix fun coming up for you guys. But so tell me this: after reading the research, what really stood out to you in that section?
I think what's really interesting is how much progress has been made in connecting biology and electronics, like for real.
Yeah, seamlessly. And the research also talked about HMIs or human machine interfaces. What about that?
Right. The human machine interfaces. These are things like hydrogels. These are like materials that are really compatible with the body. They're like the connection point between man and machine, right?
Okay, okay. And what is it? They conduct signals really well. So you can have more intuitive control over prosthetics.
Yeah, so you could like think and move a robotic arm with your brain.
Oh, all right, that's cool. We're also talking about neural enhancements, yeah?
Yeah, so like enhancing our brains with technology.
Now, the research also mentioned something about using bioelectrical signals like our brain waves, EEGs,
Uh-huh.
EEGs, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, we've also got muscle activity EMGs. You like my
Mhm.
how would I say that? Acronym, yeah, acronymonominal talents there. You like my acronymonominal talents?
Acronym.
Yeah, that's right.
You got
That's
an
right.
acronym for that?
No, it's just one word. Anyway,
Right on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so now to make it happen, all right, to make it happen, like we can actually make these movements or these communications happen between the human brain and then whatever the prosthetic is in real time.
It's wild. But I guess there's gotta be a long way off, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. There are a lot of challenges here that Hollywood doesn't really take into account, like making these implants safe for the long term in the body. I mean, they have to be biocompatible. That's just
Yep.
that's just one of the
Right.
foundational things.
And then, like, controlling them with AI, sophisticated AI, so the materials themselves matter a lot too.
Yeah, no way around that.
I mean, for RoboCop to even work, the body has to accept all these artificial parts. Now, the report talked about biocompatible materials like polymers
Hmm.
and hydrogels.
Okay, this is gonna blow your mind. Biolinks, okay, that can be used to 3D print tissues. Not even kidding. Like
What?
printing actual body parts. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There are already materials like PCL and PLA that are used in medical implants like that.
So you could print 2 ears to sew onto your nipples. So you take your shirt off, you have 2 ears on your chest. Ew, gross. What'd you say? I'm all ears. Um, Yeah,
You're an
yeah, but
idiot. That's
I
amazing.
am an idiot. So speaking of that, no, 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 but for real, back to what you said. The thing is about all these medical implants, our bodies have a natural immune response. You know,
Well, sure. I mean, it's like fighting off anything invasive or foreign. It has to be. There's a certain amount of biological compatibility has to exist in order for that to be successful.
right? And then there's the whole mechanical difference between rigid robotics and our soft tissues. So there's got to be huge integration hurdles there.
Well, sure. I mean, the body's not just going to welcome these robot parts in.
Correct. So, okay, another huge part of RoboCop is that he doesn't need to sleep, right? Let's switch gears for a second.
Yeah.
He just keeps going. And this report talked about the science of that, which is really interesting.
It absolutely is. I mean, we all know sleep is super important for our brains, right? And just in a general sense for our bodies, it's a non-negotiable part of human existence. No sleep equals eventually equals breakdown. So, and if you think about it from the point of what it actually does, part of its function, I mean, it's clearing toxins, it's helping to consolidate memories.
Hmm. And it's all controlled by our natural sleep wake cycle, like our body clock, right?
Yeah, that's correct. But right now, technology is really focused on optimizing our natural sleep. So the ideas that surround what we're talking about, implants that are helping control body parts, that's not where science has its focus at the moment. It's how do we help humans sleep better naturally so that they can function better naturally. And they're doing this with sleep trackers, stuff like that.
Okay. And scientists pretty much agree that we need at least 6 hours of real sleep to function properly, correct?
That's what I read too. So this idea of bypassing sleep completely with implants or drugs to make it like in the movie. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that that's within the next 20 years? No, absolutely not. That's still way in the realm of science fiction.
Okay. So you're saying keeping a human brain alive outside the body, like they show in the movie? No.
Yeah, that's not happening anytime soon.
Okay.
So complex. I mean, the biological challenges, I can't even begin to fathom.
Right. Well, we are making progress with bioartificial organs, but replicating a brain outside the body and keeping it alive,
Nope, not happening yet.
damn. I guess you'd need constant support, like artificial cerebrospinal fluid and ways for it to somehow digest food to feed it to keep it alive.
Absolutely. It would be insanely difficult. I think one of the things that we don't often consider is the fact that the body just does these things. It's programmed to do these things. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to essentially create a mechanical or biomechanical program that would do this, that would tell the body it needs to do this. I mean, where do you even begin?
Well, yeah, not to mention all the ethical considerations. I mean, there's huge ethical problems for all of that.
Absolutely. And probably that's a larger subject, maybe for another time or a different podcast, even. But what we're going to do now is move on to the robotic side of things, building this consistent patroller. What did the report say about the main challenges there?
Well, one of the biggest is power. I think that's kind of the biggest problem with this whole thing is like you can't do the biological side without the sleep, and you can't do the mechanical side with the current batteries that we have. They just don't last long enough. They got to be recharged all the time. So it's like you can't have a constant patroller because it's got the biological side and the machine side has to recharge.
So, one way or another, essentially, this thing needs rest and a recharge. And the report did mention some alternatives, but they all have their own drawbacks too. Like they might be too heavy or too big. So, for a Robocop to work, we need literally an entirely new type of battery, pretty much a major breakthrough in energy storage technology that as yet we don't have.
Right. But okay, what about the robot itself? How all right, let's just say that we have the new battery and somehow we've made it to where this thing's brain could stay on all the time. So that hurdle is out of the way. What about the robot itself? How do we make it tough and reliable enough for police work?
Well, I think most of us have seen that over probably the last 20 years, there's been an insanely huge jump with industrial robots and their effectiveness. I mean, you've seen the evolution of those DARPA robots over the past decade, right?
Yeah.
They've evolved a ton.
Yeah, I saw this video about 2 weeks ago. Well, it was like the evolution of the robots and it was like, they have the one robot, it's hooked up to a it's almost like it's hooked into the rafters to keep it from falling over, and just watching it walk across the platform that it was on. It's like it gets to a 2x4 and it can't step over it without falling over. And then you've got, these other robots that are like running and jumping and doing flips or carrying a box, and these scientists are like walking up to it and pushing it over to try to see if it can recover, its balance and keep going. And it's just, to me, it just looks like a 10-minute video of scientists abusing robots. They're just like hitting into the legs with sticks, pushing it over, and it's like, if these robots ever become self-aware, they're gonna be pissed. Maybe they don't realize that we were just trying to train it. It's like, these scientists are abusing me, and like the scientists, they're gonna be the first to go. I'm sorry.
No more robots after that.
Oh man,
It'll
yeah.
just be this race of really, really angry robots.
So yeah, basically, yes, they have evolved a ton, and
Okay.
they're using like AI and machine learning and strong lightweight materials like carbon fiber and modular designs, which has got to make them easier to fix, right? I mean, a RoboCop would have to face all kinds of crazy situations. They're out there on the streets.
Well, it's unpredictable. I mean, right?
I mean, it would need to be way more durable and reliable than anything we have now, and also safety is paramount.
Well, you can't argue with that. Of course, you can't have a robot cop malfunctioning. That's one of those things that it just has to work. There's
Yeah.
no room there for not only malfunction, but there's just no room there for mistake. And RoboCop is basically autonomous. He makes his own decisions.
Right. So the question remains, how close are we to that level of robotic independence?
Well, we have autonomous robots today. There are self-driving cars, things like that. And they use and this is the thing, they use sensor technology, which is
Hmm.
different than decision-making technology. So
Right.
they use sensors like lidar.
Right.
But the deal there is that that's a controlled environment. So the real world is unpredictable, and like with weather and people and traffic, they're actually going to have to start to exercise judgment. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now there is so much going on that robots aren't good at handling, yet those situations often need human judgment. So that's the whole question of, should we be relying on robots so much?
That's a big one. That's a big
I don't know. All right, next. Your report talked about advances in prosthetics and exoskeletons.
That's right.
How do those fit into the whole RoboCop idea?
Okay, so we absolutely should not underestimate nor downplay the important those advances are important steps. They're showing us how humans and machines can work together. That's one of the biggest. I think that's one of the biggest things scientists are learning right now about that the compatibility between, or I should say, the sort of the symbiosis between machines and human beings. We're getting a lot better at controlling prosthetics with our own bioelectrical signals. Thinking something and then it happening, and even with those brain interfaces that we were talking about. So essentially, using your mind to control a prosthetic limb.
Okay. And there has been process in providing sensory feedback so you can feel what the prosthetic is touching.
Okay, that's that's amazing and a little creepy. I'll
Yeah.
I'll admit. But some of the things that are making that possible, exoskeletons, for instance, are helping people be stronger, and techniques like osseointegration are making prosthetic connections more stable.
Oseo what?
Osseointegration. Let me find a definition here. Isn't Google great? Hang on. Okay, here we go. My best definition voice. It is the process by which a titanium implant or other biocompatible material becomes permanently anchored to bone. It occurs when the bone cells grow and attach directly to the surface of an implant, forming a strong, stable connection.
Wait, so like bone grows around the metal? That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, isn't it? It's also pretty cool.
All right, so taking all this into account, what did the experts in that report of yours say about how realistic a real life RoboCop is?
Most of them agreed that it's still a long way off. We're making progress, of course, but there are some really, really big challenges.
Like what? Okay, well, we talked about keeping a human brain alive indefinitely. That's huge. And then seamlessly merging human and machine beyond what we can do with prosthetics right now is also huge.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Then there's AI. The AI needs to be super advanced, but also ethical. I guess that's, if you have an AI algorithm to transfer the the barrier between the human and the machine. Basically we just need breakthroughs in a bunch of different areas.
Uh, yes, no brainer. That's right.
All right. So
But the
here
real question is which areas, right? I mean,
are several key areas that the report mentioned. Four main ones. Actually, a sophisticated android body. Okay. A way to support the brain outside the body, advanced brain machine interfaces, and a strong AI that can make good decisions.
wow. So here's what I'm hearing: no RoboCop walking the streets anytime soon.
No, we're probably closer to having an Ed 209 walking the streets than an actual RoboCop walking the streets. But
Yeah. Okay.
I
Agreed.
mean, we do have robots in law enforcement today.
Okay. Yeah. Like I've seen those bomb disposal robots, right?
Right, but they are mostly remote controlled. Somebody's operating them from a distance. They're not making any sort of judgments.
Yeah, from a distance. That's precisely where I would want to be operating them from as well.
Yeah.
But those obviously are very different from the eponymous RoboCop in the movie.
Right, and also the fact that you have somebody making the choices for the robot and remotely
Mhm.
controlling it can avoid things like what happened in the movie with the Ed 209 demonstration. You remember that scene in the boardroom where they like give the gun to the executive and he points the gun at Ed 209, and even when he throws the gun away, the robot is still focused on him and he just like
Right.
blows him away and it just turns him into ground beef basically. Yeah.
Yeah, you can only imagine the, lawsuits that would follow if something
Right.
like that happened in real life.
So, yeah,
So
basically what I'm saying is there are still a lot of ethical and legal questions about using robots in policing. Duh.
definitely,
Okay,
definitely.
so for everybody listening, it sounds like while there's a lot of exciting progress happening, a real life RoboCop is still firmly in the realm of science fiction.
Given what we've read and the research that we did, I'd have to agree with that. But it does make you think. I mean, even if we could create a RoboCop, here's the $10 million question: should we?
It's a good question. What parts of human policing would be lost? And what would it do to our society? It is something to think about. Well, thanks for joining me on the deep dive. It's been a pleasure chatting with you once again. That is a wrap on today's episode of Deep Nonsense. I do hope you enjoyed diving into the science or lack thereof behind whether or not we can create our very own RoboCop. Whether it's catching ghosts, building a cyborg cop, or creating a never ending candy, it is always wild to see just how far fiction stretches reality. If you've got a crazy movie concept you want us to break down, hit us up. Leave a comment or send us a message with your ideas, and who knows, your suggestion just might be in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Your support helps us keep the nonsense going. Thanks for listening to Deep Nonsense, where we take movie magic and see if it can ever become real. Catch you next time.